No, I'm not going to read this. Hey, everybody. This is the hottest commodity in pro wrestling, the manager's manager, the maker of mayhem, the bringer of boom, the wager of war, the instigator of illuminating truth, and as of recently, the collector of champions. And you're watching the Hashtag Truth with Scott Larson. Now, get out of here.
September 19th in Charlotte, North Carolina, Future Titans Wrestling brings in an actual Titan. I'm the alpha male Hunter Wolf, and I stand 7 foot tall and 350 pounds. And Dirty Joe, I'm going to show you why guys my size clean up the competition differently.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hashtag Truth. Tonight, we have the one, the only, Chris Thunder Anderson. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, but I guess a lot of people are probably glad there's only one of me.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I sat with you during the Holly Yatsko Memorial Cup before while everybody was getting ready and stuff like that. We had a pretty interesting conversation then, and we're going to carry that right on into the show here, if you don't mind.
That works.
So tell me, Chris, how long have you been in wrestling?
I have been in the business for about 25 years now. I started in 95, the summer of 95, training, and probably had my first match February, March in 96, somewhere in there, and been going strong ever since.
Now we had a short discussion about how you came into training for wrestling. Can you tell us that story?
Sure. So I went to a gym here in town, and just kind of I knew Mickey Richards, trying not to sell nobody's gimmicks out. So I knew Mickey from church softball and industrial league softball. Just he played with some friends of mine, and I'd go and watch. And so I knew him through there and worked out with him at the gym some. And one day we were working out, and he just said, we were talking, and I said something about the weekend, and he said, yeah, I've got a show. And I said, what kind of show? And I'm thinking car show, because Mickey's probably still has 2 or 3 Mustangs all the time. So right. I'm thinking he's showing his Mustang somewhere. But he's like, no, he said, I got a wrestling show. And I was like, a wrestling show? And he was like, yeah. And I said, you wrestle? And he was like, oh, yeah. So we got to talking about it. Come to find out, he was traveling. He was going to Wahoo's Chop Shop when Wahoo was still around and in Charlotte. Right. So when he was driving back and forth and everything. So we got to talking. So he was like, come this weekend and check it out. So I was like, sure. He's like, I'll get you in. We'll take care of everything. No big deal. So I showed up. He got me in the door. Took me in the dressing room. I walk in the dressing room, and there sits like 3 guys I played football with in high school. And right. They're all like, you're doing this? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And they're like, yeah, you're doing this because this is you. So they kind of, talked to me the whole show. Of course, I went out and watched most of it, hung out with those guys as well. Right. Mickey got into contact with me about a week or so later about training and where they were training at and stuff. And so I started training probably a couple of weeks after that, 4 nights a week, 3 hours a night, and working full time and in the gym full time at the same time. And it just kind of culminated into where it's at now. So I've had a blast.
Now let's fast forward to 2021. Right now, you are one half of the HWA Tag Team Champions. Tell us a little bit about that.
I have known Cruiser for maybe 20 years. I don't really know. I met him years ago at J Eagles at APW.
Okay.
Worked with him. I've worked against him. I've worked with him. Natural respect for the man. Probably the only guy that's in the business might be as stiff as I am, at least from stories that I've been told. I don't personally think he's all that bad. He may think the same thing about me, but that's usually how it goes. But I have a ball tagging with Cruiser. Everybody says we're too old. I think we have proved in winning, not only winning the tag straps, first shot at them, but defending those belts as well. We've proved that's going to get people hurt calling us old.
Yeah. Well, isn't like the saying, the older you get, the wiser you get, the better you get. I mean,
I heard Bully Ray say this on another show. I won't put nobody over much, but he said the older you get in wrestling, the more seasoned you become. And guys that are, and he made reference to Flair.
Right.
When Flair had his run with Steamboat and Sting and all those guys, Flair was in his 40s. You don't learn as a 20-year-old in this business, or 21-year-old in this business, or 19-year-old kid in this business. You don't learn what putting a match together really is. And you don't learn what the business is. You just know, hey, I'm a wrestler. I've got a pair of boots. And that's not necessarily a shot, because anybody that's in the business currently, especially that's been doing it as long as I have, has been in that spot. You walk in and you're big-eyed and bushy-tailed as far as, oh, gosh, I'm a wrestler now. Right. And you don't know kind of which direction you go.
Now to continue our discussion that we had while we were at HWA, we talked about that because I asked you, me and you both are like old school type. We like watching old school wrestling. And we both discussed Continental Championship Wrestling for a little while. And you told me something that kind of shocked me. You said, and I said, I like Memphis wrestling. I grew up watching Memphis wrestling. And you said, I was a part of Memphis wrestling. So tell us a little bit about that.
I was lucky enough, probably almost 20 years ago now. My oldest son is 19. We drug him to Memphis on a hope and a prayer. A promoter that I was friends with and hadn't seen in a very, very long time was running shows, and I worked for him about every show he ever had. Right. But he ran in Memphis. And, of course, wanted me to come. So me and a friend of mine named Chuck King tagged and went out there and wrestled the original Moondogs in the Mid-South Coliseum.
Wow.
Looking back on it, it was probably the closest I've ever come to hanging my boots up. It was not a fun-filled match.
The Moondogs are about as stiff as they come, isn't it? They are.
It wasn't so much that. It's just there were very details that were left out to them. I did get a chance to kind of talk to them when it was over, and they calmed down, and I calmed down because I was ready to fight when it was over. And I actually went looking for them, which Jerry Lawler told me years later when I saw him again. He said, "You're the only person I've ever seen go looking for the Moondogs." But had a good experience overall in Memphis. Did the show. The show consisted just name dropping, I know, but Lawler was. Anytime you wrestle in the Mid-South Coliseum on the card with Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee, in my mind, you've done something.
Man, yes, sir.
And so Lawler and Dundee were there. Billy Joe Travis was there. Of course, the Moondogs, Buddy Landale, Brickhouse Brown, Sherry Martell, who stayed in the same motel right next to
all the people that
I got to hear all kinds of stories from Sherry. Leilani Kai was there. Gypsy Joe was there. All the staples in Memphis, and a lot of the new guys that were wrestling with Memphis Wrestling at the time. A lot of the new talent that they had were there as well. So just overall, it was a real good, fun experience. I mean, at the time I didn't see it that way, but looking back on it, that's something that nobody can ever take away.
Right.
But I wrestled in the Mid-South Coliseum, and you didn't. So there you go.
That's good. Man, we got a lot of people talking. I haven't forgot about everybody. It was just, the questions just were coming, and he was answering them so well, I didn't want to interrupt them. Michael King said, "Good evening, Thunder."
Hello, Michael.
Ben Wolf said hello.
Next time you cut a promo, get out of your car.
Oh, and I'm about to show that promo. Oh, no. Michael King said, "Good evening, Scott." Hello, Ben Wolf. Joey Godfrey said, "What's up, Chris Thunder Anderson? How is Lightning?" We just spoke of him.
Well, currently it's lightning at my house, so there you go.
There you go. There you go. Outlaw said, "Outlaws here." Michael King said, "Can you share your pre-show hygiene routine for everyone, please?" Uh-oh.
Sure. You do you have time, or you got to do something first?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I just want to make sure. So I have been known on occasion to pitch a fit when guys' gear stink, or they stink, or whatever. And there's nothing worse than being in a headlock with somebody that smells bad. So my ritual is, of course, I wash my gear quick as I get home, usually, or at least the next morning. I have deodorant that I carry with me. I put on before I get in the ring. I brush my teeth before I get in the ring. All that kind of good stuff, because there's nothing worse than being in a headlock with somebody that has 8 onions and try and talk to you. So, yeah. So, that's just kind of me. That's what I've always done. I've had a few people look at me funny, especially when I break out the toothbrush. The spray deodorant's one thing, I guess, but why is that guy brushing his teeth? And that's why. It's just
if you gotta ask that,
honestly, all of that is just out of respect for whoever I'm in the ring with.
Wrestling is a contact sport. And yes, I'm calling it a sport. It's a contact sport. Like you said, you got to grab people. You got to be next to people. There's nothing worse than, you haven't even started sweating hardly, and already you got I could imagine, bro.
Well, and I will say this too, Scott. I had an old football coach that told me one time that football is not a contact sport. Football is a collision sport. And I feel the same way about wrestling.
There you go. So, I agree. Without a doubt.
Basketball's contact.
Outlaw said, "Flight risk ain't scared. Let's go."
Who says that now?
Oh, okay. Julie Hester said, "Hey, Scott shared for you." Thank you very much, Miss Julie. I appreciate that. Zach said, "Hey, Scott." Very good. Thank you. Sherry Boland, "You guys are not too old for wrestling." There you go. Cheryl says, "You're not too old for wrestling." I agree with you, Cheryl. They're not too old for wrestling. I think, as a matter of fact, they're just getting in their prime. I really do.
I like to think that.
Ben Wolf wants to know, who in the Indies is your dream matchup? Somebody you haven't fought yet.
Oh, Lord. I'm going to have to come back to that one. I don't really know.
Okay.
I feel like sometimes I've worked with so many over the years, and I've never sat down and figured it up. Not that math's ever been my strong suit. Anyway, but I'm probably in that 1,000 match, 2,000 match range. I mean, you go, like I said, I've wrestled for 25 years.
That is definitely a veteran.
And you hear people talk about, "Oh, I've been doing this for 10 years." Okay, but how many matches have you had? And some guys only wrestle once a month for however long, and then they get out and then they come back. And so, when you total up match wise, sometimes it don't equal as much. But you figure I've wrestled at least once or twice, probably twice every weekend for almost 25 years. I'm up there with some matches. So I've worked with a lot of guys. Last HWA show before the Holly Cup, I did get to work Adam James. Me and Adams kind of went back and forth for a while on some things.
That was an amazing match.
Probably one of my top guys that I wanted to work with. Got the opportunity to do that. And I don't think neither one of us was ready for that match. I think if we would have been a little bit more mentally prepared,
right,
other than walking in the door and saying, "Y'all got each other tonight," I think the match would have been better. Not saying it was bad, because I enjoyed working with Adam. I love Adam dearly. My wife actually said on the way home that night, if you two would have hooked up, before now, this would have been magic. So,
right.
But as far as anybody else, I'll be honest, I'm willing to step in the ring with just about anybody.
There you go. I like that. That's and we discussed a little bit there. I'm gonna catch up on something, man. There's a lot of people talking, sir. Michael King said success is a process, not a destination.
That's true.
Thomas Scott said, "What's up, Thunder, my old friend?" Outlaw said, "We would be honored to take those titles from wrestlers as seasoned as y'all." Oh boy, he's talking big already.
That's easy to do. That's easy to do when you're sitting at home.
Cheryl said, "Moon dogs were bad to the bone." They definitely were.
They were.
Crystal said,
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but just a little side note. Actually, the week after that match, Spot passed away in the building, in the ring.
"Oh man,
it was the week before he passed away was the week I worked with him."
Oh, that's crazy, dude.
I'm sorry to hear that. And then Billy Joe Travis, who was actually on the show too, passed away a month or so later, I think.
Right. Wow. Crystal Hudson said the key to success in business is listening. I agree with that. That's
with anything.
That is true. 2 people asked who was your dream match, but you said you wanted to come back to that. Cheryl said nobody wants to work with someone that stinks. That is true.
Definitely.
Michael King said, "I agree about getting out of the truck to cut a promo." As a matter of fact, we're at the 15-minute mark, and we're going to go to that promo just to show you what you shouldn't do. So here is Mr. King himself cutting that promo in that car that you're not supposed to do. We'll be right back. If you have any questions for Mr. Chris Thunder Anderson, please be sure to put them up in the comments, and I will get them to him shortly. Here is Mr. King himself.
Future Titans of Wrestling. Let me introduce myself. I am the Asian sensation. I've been everywhere. I have seen everything. There's not a move I can't counter. There's not a strategy that I can't defeat. You've got problems, and I've got solutions. Give me a call, because I am the ultimate solutions provider. September 19th. September 19th, the debut show for Future Titans of Wrestling. And you know what? I'll be there. I will be there. But I'm not coming alone. Oh no. I am bringing global domination with me. King Enterprises will be there. And we'll be watching, and we'll be playing. You want to know who they are? Do you want to know who they are? Well, come. September 19th, Mooney's Lounge. And you will see King Enterprises and Global Domination walk away with every single belt available. We will be the champion of champions. I will be the manager of champions. The future of wrestling lies with the Asian sensation and King Enterprises. Future Titans of Wrestling, if you want success, you got to come through me. Peace be the journey.
There you go, one Mr. King. And I have to say, Mr. King is one of our great sponsors, as you see below here. KingEnterprises.store. Go check them out for women's, men's, all kinds of merchandise, throw blankets, everything. They have it right there at kingsmerchandise.store. So, Chris, I saw you during that promo. You were rolling your eyes. You were, so let's talk a little bit about promo.
Well, my youngest son's sitting over here next to me, and he's just like, "Oh, Dad, dude, tell him this and tell him this." So that's part of it. In all seriousness, I've met with Michael. I've talked with Michael. He's a great guy. I enjoy talking with him. I think the first conversation we had, I probably blew his mind. Because he didn't really know me. He was managing AJ Frost, and I think AJ's kind of been around him. And I've known AJ for as long as he's been in the business. And we were just kind of standing around talking, and I was probably fussing about something. And so he had this look on his face like, "Oh my gosh, is this guy going to kill somebody?" But he was gracious enough to listen at me rant, and we've talked and had several conversations. And I like Michael; he's all right, fella.
He is a good guy. Been a sponsor since I started sponsorships back, and gets a hold of me all the time, and he has an knack for business. He's a really good businessman. If you sit down and talk to him for a few minutes,
That's a good thing.
Yeah, not a bad thing at all. Now, I was warned before I sat down to do an interview with you, Miss Missy. She warned me that you speak your mind, and I like that about you. I really do.
Sometimes it gets me in trouble.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, we're going to talk about the difference between old school and new school, and are some of the changes as good as people are saying they are, or do you think that wrestling as a core has went the wrong way or in the wrong direction?
I think, me personally, I think that storytelling in wrestling is lost. It's a lost art. I know me and you, like I said, had a conversation Saturday, and I asked you your opinion of me and Adam.
Right.
And you said the exact same thing that my wife said on the way home that night. People some reactions, of course, because I think the people were tired too because they popped all night. But you said it, my wife said it as well. They were more watching; they just watched.
Right.
And I think when you can get in that kind of atmosphere and tell that kind of story, that's what happens. Not saying that the pops wasn't there, not saying that the crowd wasn't interested in it, and I'm not tooting my own horn by saying that.
Well, we were watching.
I have watched matches that do that.
It was old school wrestling. I mean, there was. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the guys who could go off the top rope or jump off the ring ropes or do the flips and all the high flying stuff. But when you have two technical grounded pound wrestlers in the ring, and we call it Memphis wrestling because that's what they did in Memphis. It's fun to watch. And for me, it took me back to, my Continental Championship days when I was watching Continental Championship wrestling. And that's the type of wrestling that does get me involved.
Right. And I mean, I've talked a whole lot of flack sometimes for being old school or too old school or whatever. But my personal opinion is the high flying stuff's okay, but you got to make it make sense when you do it.
Right.
Because I personally feel like that if you time it right, in other words, if you place it in that story in the right places, you'll get a better reaction than just going out looking like a glorified gymnast.
Right.
That's what some guys do. No offense to those guys, but that's just kind of how it comes across sometimes.
It does.
And and I've been in the ring with some folks that, those guys can turn flips all day long, but they don't know a wrist block from a wristwatch. Back years ago, me and my old partner Blade, God rest his soul, I love him, I miss him dearly. Worked some guys, and Mark told him, he said, just put me in the top wrist. And the guy said, what's that? And needless to say, their careers were very short-lived that night. Because they got him with the little boys that didn't say it. We just didn't care. It's like, if you don't know what that is, you don't need to be in the ring with us. So,
right.
But I do think, and change is necessary. I'm not knocking it by no means. Change is necessary. You have to kind of change with the times and keep up with things. Anybody that knows me will tell you I'm fairly resistant to it, but I accept it because I have to. Whether it's, in home or in wrestling or wherever I'm at. So I do think we have to adapt, especially even Boomer, I think, said it. I watched his interview with you that day, and Boomer said, it's a necessary change that we have to make. We don't have to necessarily change how we do things. We just maybe have to update what we do.
Right. Exactly.
But as long as you keep the core of wrestling intact, and I feel like sometimes that's the hardest part, because there are few and far between anymore, and it's guys that's been wrestling 10, 15, 20 years that do it. But I think if you keep that core intact, then wrestling will be just fine.
Right. Well, everybody
There's
asks,
nothing that you can do.
why do you show up to HWA all the time? Why is HWA? You won't miss an HWA show because they give me something to invest in. That's my big line on #truth. They give me something. When Boomer and all them guys write a story for that show, it is the whole wrestling show is always story driven. When you leave, you're wondering what's going to happen next week. What's going to happen?
An old promoter said to me one time, a show is like a book, and each match is a chapter in that book.
Exactly.
And it all has to make sense so that when you get to the end, you get your happily ever after, however that is. And that's truly how it should be, regardless of what's going on.
Thomas Scott said, "Tell Missy and the kids I said hello." Brian Sisk said, "Hey, Mr. Anderson." Another great big fan for HWA.
Yep.
Here we go. Here's the story. Tell us about the match on the water. Thank you, Missy. Thank you very much. I'd forgotten about the match on the water. Tell us about that.
That is an old Jay Eagle gimmick.
She's laughing. You can hear her.
Yeah, you can. Jay did a best of Jay Eagle years ago when he ran Chesney at the Chesney Coliseum.
Yep.
And or at least that's what we called it because it was a Coliseum to us. And that was part of his match list. And he had loved Miss Rhonda dearly. And she stood in the ring and said, "Come watch Jay Eagle wrestle Greg Valentine and Randy Savage and all these people." And he would interject himself. And then finally, during one of those things, he jumped in and said, "Tell him about the match on the water." And we all, everybody that worked there at the time, just thought it was a joke. And so we cornered Chief up one night. We were like, "Chief, what's that really about?" And he was like, "I wrestled a match on the water." And we were like, "How?" So I don't know, by hook or crook, I don't know how I wound up with a copy of this tape, but I have a copy of the match on the water. They took 4 of the great big oil drums like you'd see outside of somebody's house.
I seen a picture of it. I seen a picture of it out on the lake. It was
and they ran a rope. The one I saw, they ran a rope from one side of the pond, lake, whatever it was, to the other.
Right.
And the referee pulled them out to the middle, and they had a match. And that ring back and forth, and basically, if you got thrown over the top rope, you went in the water. They did a battle royal. Everybody went in the water. It's just funny. It's one of those folklore things that you never see.
It's one of those great matches that if you were there,
next time I see him, he'll probably shoot me and definitely say something hateful to me. But Chris Hamrick was on that tape.
Yes. Oh,
he didn't go in, but he didn't go in the water. I can say that.
Okay. But it's just one of those matches that, like you said, it's like a folklore match. Like, that didn't really happen. Right. But there's pictures, there's video, there's all kinds of. I've seen the pictures. I mean, I would have paid to see that. I'm not gonna lie. I would have paid and put me a lawn chair out there like that, and I would have sat out there and I would have had fun watching that kind of match. Definitely. That is a once in a lifetime thing right there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. Michael King said a new promo will be coming soon when I'm not rushed. Robert Schock said, I've gotten a lot of advice from Thunder Anderson. It'd be nice to do a match with you nowadays since I could maybe keep up now. #Thundermark.
I've worked after Schock a couple of times. He takes a good pounding.
Brian Sisk said, it's an absolute honor seeing you wrestle at HWA for us, sir. It was really good talking with you at Saturday's show.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed talking with him as well. And I appreciate that's my corner guys over there. That's my heel guy. Yep. I got to support them as much as they support me.
Right, without a doubt. Thomas Scott said, I miss old school, but when I first started, these wrestlers nowadays don't have a clue. Michael King said, I respected Thunder about a month before I ever heard him say a word. His demeanor and how he carried himself in the locker room told me he was a man to be respected and he knew what he was doing.
Thank you.
Michael King said, "Didn't you meet Ollie Anderson at a show where you were working?"
Well, I guess we're going to get into the whole Anderson deal. So this is what happened. So I had worked a couple of shows and been around Ollie a time or two.
Okay.
And the same promoter, and this kind of doubles back on the Memphis show, but the same promoter that ran Memphis ran a show, and he did a 2-day shot in Liberty, South Carolina, and Anderson, South Carolina, on a Friday and Saturday night.
Okay.
And so he called me, "Hey, I want you to come down." Da, da, da. Every time I worked for this guy, they announced me as Chris Thunder Anderson, and I was like, "You got to quit doing that." Because I mean, I don't know where anybody else stands with the Anderson name as far as, I know CW got the blessing and touch from Arn, and that's great. I don't know about anybody else.
Right.
And of course, Brad gets it honest. But every time I'd work for him, that was the deal. So, and they announced me, son of Ollie. I'm like, oh Lord, he's gonna get me shot to the world. So anyway, I go to Liberty on the Friday night, went out and wrestled Crucifix, as a matter of fact, that night. When the show was over, we're standing out side, and we're getting ready to leave. We're actually in the car leaving, and my wife said, "Did you see him?" And I was like, "See who?" And she's like, "Your daddy," and laughed. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Ollie was there." It was right after his book had come out. He was over in the corner selling books, and I didn't even know he was in the building.
Oh no!
But I came out and did my deal and worked like I always do. And Missy said that he stood up and watched the entire match. The only time he ever even watched hardly the whole show.
Right.
Well, so she tells me that on Friday night. So on Saturday, we go to the autograph signing that we were all supposed to be at. Saturday evening, we get to the show. And, of course, as well as I do, wrestlers are the huggingest bunch of people in the world. We all got to rug around and walk around and hug each other's necks and shake hands and kiss babies and do what we do.
Right.
And I think I spoke to everybody in the building, and Ollie was the last one left. And I was just like, oh, crap, here we go. So I go to him, and I stick my hand out, and I go, "Hey, Ollie, how are you?" And he reaches, and he grabs my hand, and he pulls me across the table. And he was in a walker, using a walker at this point.
Right.
He pulls me across the table, and I'm pretty much going, he's going to hold me in place while he beats me with this walker. That's what's in my mind.
Right.
And he leans over, and he gets in my ear, and he says, "That's the best job I've seen done with that gimmick in 20 years. You keep it up."
Nice.
Now that's the nice version. That's the rated G version that he said in my ear. I will not repeat what he said.
Right.
But that's the gist of it. He used some expletives, but that's Ollie.
Right.
And I walked away that night going, I'm an Anderson now, whether I want to be or not.
There you go.
And I took it and ran with it, and it's worked. It's one of the few things that people change gimmicks off and on, but people change their names totally sometimes. At least independent wise, and because we do that on our own. We don't have somebody telling us that because we left this company and went to that company, we have to change our names. But anyway, and just throwing it out there.
Hey, that's some good company to be with the name of Anderson. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
But ever since then, I don't know how. Well, I got a pretty good idea. There was a lady named Peggy Lathan who just passed away recently. Sweetheart of a lady that was friends with Ollie and friends with us. And she was kind of the go-between. And I think she kind of filled me in on what I was doing and where I was at and that kind of thing. Because every blue moon, I would get a little message from him that says, you need to do this different, or you need to do that different, or hey, it looks good, or whatever. When I turned 40, my lovely wife arranged for him to call me. And Ollie don't talk on the phone people much.
Right.
But he called me, and I spent 45 minutes on the phone with him.
Nice.
And I probably yes sirred him more than I've probably my own dad in my entire life.
Right.
And my dad was a big man as well.
Right.
Him and Ollie are cut from the same cloth. I can tell you that. So, but it's just I'm extremely honored and blessed to have that opportunity, and be considered like that. So,
Without a doubt. Now, I'm going to say this, and then I got to cut away to a quick commercial for another sponsor. But Missy said, love good storylines, and I warned you. Just had to tell you that. So I'm going to
anybody that knows how long-winded I can get, it's her.
Right. I'm going to cut away to this very quick commercial from one of our sponsors, L&L Fence Company. We will be right back with Chris Thunder Anderson. If you have any questions, feel free to put them over there in the comments, and I will ask him without a doubt. We'll be right back.
L&L Fence Company, specializing in custom fencing from wood and aluminum to chain link. 9331 Albemarle Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. Give them a call today for your free estimate. 704-563-9544. L&L Fence Company, the king in custom fencing.
There you go, L&L Fence Company. If you need fencing done, that's the place to call. We are here with Chris Thunder Anderson, and he was just telling us his story about Ollie Anderson. We got a lot of people on here talking today. True professional every time. I've been in the locker room with him, says Philip.
Thanks, sir.
Shock said it's a true honor to take a beating from Thunder, even if it hurts the next day. Oh, Michael King. Here we go. Can you tell us a story about when you were green and wasn't sure what to do when you got to a show before bell?
Well, the way I was trained, and I had some great folks that took time to take time and train me the way I should have been trained. The guy that actually trained me, of course, Mickey Richards got me started, got me into business, broke me in. Learned a lot from Mick. The guy that actually trained me also trained Blade. And it was more or less, this is how you do this, this is how you do this, this is how you do this. So we learned the moves. And my very first gimmick, I will not repeat the name because my wife would shoot me and laugh at me all at the same time. I basically stole everybody else's gimmick. I did the rock bottom. I did the people's elbow. I did the spear. I did the jackhammer. I did everything. And she's probably sitting there laughing at me now because I'm telling this. But if you've seen it on TV, I did it. Didn't know why I did it. I just did it because I was big enough to do it. I pressed everybody up over my head, the whole 9 yards.
There you go.
Anyway, I got an opportunity to wrestle for Great American Wrestling Federation over in Ashford.
Right.
And the guy that called me, his name was John Queen, JD Sullivan. Everybody knows him as Pop. JD, everybody calls him JD or John Sullivan. However, he'd been in the business for 100 years. Him and a tag team called the Terminators, Rex and Spike, also known as Tim Bivens and Jerry Buchanan. And a referee that I truly miss, W.T. Broadwell.
Yeah.
Those four took two green kids that didn't know what they was doing, and me and Blade, and they made us wrestlers. They taught us how to act, why we sat in the dressing room and kept our mouth shut. Why you walk in, you shake everybody's hands, you find a corner and you sit down, and you don't speak unless you're spoken to. They taught us what it was to be in a match where you had to fight back. And they were stiff. God knows they were stiff. They beat the full out of you.
Right.
But they were old school. They were trained by Nelson Royal. And anybody that knows anything about Nelson, and I know Dizzy does because I've heard Dizzy talk about it. Anybody that knows Nelson,
all these names, Dizzy said I remember those guys.
Yep. Me and Blade got in the ring with them, and we went toe to toe with them. There wasn't a match we had with them that all four of us wasn't black and blue. And that's just how it was. They called the cops on us over in Asheville one night. We wrestled at the Asheville Armory. The match got so out of hand with us. We tore up the concession stand. We tore up the seats. We tore up the whole building just about. And when we got out of sight, we just went back to the dressing room and sat down. And about probably 2 or 3 minutes after we got sat down, the door kicks open and here's cops and Armory people and all this. And they're like, is everything okay? Is everything okay? The promoter, the ring announcer, everybody. And we were like, yeah, why? What's going on? And they were like,
that's when you know you've done your job.
That's right. We worked that whole dressing room. And, you know, and so they walked away going, wow, you know. And so I learned so much from those 4 guys. I still stay in contact with Tim and Jerry. I see them a lot around. I see John around some. And like I said, we lost WT, you know, I think in the last year or so. You know, so I miss him greatly. Best referee I've ever seen. No offense to Gene or nothing like that, but I'm truly convinced that WT Broadwell taught Tommy Young how to slide.
Right.
He was that good.
Wow.
So, you know, but those guys really taught us the business, and they taught us how to act, and they taught us how to be professional, and what really truly working a match was. So I will be forever in debt to those guys. Jerry used to tell me all the time, he said, Thunder, it's the little things that get you. It's the little things. It's the little things. Right. And I'm like, well, what's that, Jerry? What does that mean, Jerry? I can't tell you. I'm like, what do you mean you can't tell me? Don't tell me, you know, it's the little things and not tell me what they are. He said, I can't tell you because because I don't know. He said, but when you do it for a length of time, you'll figure it out. And he's right. I can't sit and tell people now what those little things are. Right. But he's right. I can tell you it's the little things that get you, but I can't tell you what they are. But I know what he's talking about now.
Right. So you've been in the business for 25 years. Let me ask you, man, what do you feel was your greatest accomplishment so far?
So far. Well, she told me to leave her out of it, but I'm going to be honest and say probably meeting my wife.
There you go.
Out of everything that I've done.
So if I'm being too nosy, let me know, but how'd you meet her then?
We met at wrestling. I won't go into details with her past. Okay. She was at a show in Gaffney, South Carolina, with a friend of hers that was reffing. She just showed up and just happened to sit down right next to Blade's girlfriend, and they got to talking. And who are you here with, and who are you here with, and that whole conversation. And
right.
Me and Blade came out and we wrestled. Another great tag team that I love dearly, Cruise Control, David and Donovan Cruz. We traveled the roads with those guys, and we done all kinds of stuff with them. Probably some of the most fun matches we've ever had. But we worked those guys that night, and we got done. And Ricky and Robert were there that night, and they came to us in the dressing room and was like, look, we got to have somebody to sit at our table because somebody's probably going to steal our stuff. We all go do it. So we were like, sure. And so we go and we're sitting at the Rock and Roll Express table, which was cool in its in and of itself.
Nice.
But so it's me and Blade and his girlfriend and Missy. And you've seen it on old, Little Rascals and stuff like that, where you look to see if the girl's looking, and when they turn around, you jerk your head back around. We done that the rest of the show because we sat there.
Right.
And so when show was over, we're getting ready to leave. And of course, everybody's hugging and telling everybody bye. And I wound up, long story short, I hugged Missy about 4 or 5 times. And we left. Well, the next day, that was on a Thursday night. On a Friday night, we were scheduled to go to APW. And we get in the car, and Mark's girlfriend goes with us, and she says, guess who I talked to today? And I'm like, who? And she's like, Missy. And I'm like, who's Missy? Because I never knew her name. And she never told me her name, so I didn't know who she was.
Okay. And so you hugged the girl 11 times, and you didn't know her name.
Right. And she showed up to show. Well, she rode with her sister and her husband, and they got there late, so they missed mine and Mark's match, which was fine.
Okay.
So we go upstairs in the old balcony in Chesney, and all I do was sit behind her and pull her hair like I'm 3 years old.
You were flirting.
I mean, what do you do? And so we talked for about a week. Anyway, long story short, we dated 3 months.
That's why I'm not allowed to hug people.
That's right. Long story short, we dated 3 months. We've been married 20 years.
There you go. Wow. I love stories like that, man. I am right with Brian, man. I could listen to stories like this for hours. So much.
As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and date everything for you. Our first date was right around Labor Day.
Okay.
And we got married on December 29th. So coming up will be our 21-year anniversary.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
we've been together for 21 years. So there you go.
That is totally awesome, man. How did you put up with him for 21 years? I want to know that question. I would love for you to come over and get in the screen and tell me how you put up with this man for 21 years. I just want to know.
Well, I'm sure it's a hard road for her.
Right. So you've had 45 minutes while you were talking to others. Did you ever come up with an answer for who you would like to face?
I've even asked my son sitting over here that's marking out over this show. And he just kind of looks at me and goes, I don't know, Dad. I don't know. I've wrestled so many great
Who would he like to see Dad wrestle? Why don't you ask him? Who would he like to see Dad wrestle?
He don't know nobody.
He
wants me and his brothers, and he wants to wrestle me and him and his brother. And that's what it is.
Well, keep it the family, man. Put it all in the ring. There you go.
No, I'll be honest. Like I said,
apparently he hasn't heard the old stories. You don't want to fight Dad. You just don't want to fight.
Well, they've seen a few. They don't necessarily have to hear the stories. They've kind of seen that reaction, so they know that. It's like I was talking about the Terminators earlier.
Right.
Missy knew the Terminators from years back, and she was like, nobody stands toe to toe with the Terminators. And another buddy of mine named Scotty Black, who wrestled in GAWF as well, told her one night, he said, no, Missy, I'm telling you, he said they went toe to toe with them. And she's like, there's no way. And then when Blade retired and got out of business and stuff, he was out for a pretty good little bit, and he contracted non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh man!
And that's where he passed away from. But we did a benefit show for him. Me and Missy were running shows at the time, so we put together a show for him, and we did a benefit. And I wrestled Jerry, which was Terminator Spike, Rex. I'm sorry. And when we got done, it was just a singles match. But when we got done, she looked at me and she said, okay, from now on, I'll never doubt that again. She said, because I don't ever want to see you two in the same ring wrestling each other ever again. She said, because I thought you were going to kill each other.
But that's what the fans want. That's what the fans are missing today. The realism, the kayfabe, you really hate this guy if you're a heel, and that guy is supposed to hate you because you are the bad guy. You know, that's what's missing today.
I can tell you one good one. The matter of fact, it's from the Liberty, South Carolina show. I'll tell you a good one.
Okay.
And I know you've had several guests, and I've heard some of them say, and you've heard more than me, of course. But a lot of guys get on here and talk about how tough they are, and I'm this, and I'm Billy Bad, and I'm tougher than him, and da 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 da.
Right.
So I'm gonna tell one on myself. So I'm in Liberty, South Carolina. The show me and Crystal Fix has wrestled, or we're wrestling. And there's this an old lady in a wheelchair.
Okay.
And she's called me every name she can think of and made up a few, I think. And, I've never been one really to come out and gesture at crowds or say things I probably shouldn't say or anything like that, because that's just the way I learned it. But I looked at her and I said, lady, if you don't shut up, I'm going to take the wheels off that wheelchair and I'm going to put you up on blocks. And I turned around and I went right back to Chris Fix. And that was all I did.
Right.
I'm out of the show, and there's 3 guys standing in the parking lot wanting to fight. Not only wanting to fight, they got knives out ready to kill me. And I guess it was their grandma. And of course, I'm standing over to the car going, well, why don't you walk over here and do something? And they're like, we're going to. And I'm like, well, then come on over here. What's stopping you? And my wife, of course, is going, get in the car. Get in the car. Now, Scott, I'm going to tell you something. Missy was 8 months pregnant with Luke, which is our baby boy. He's 13 now.
Right.
He's over here jumping up and down now that I mentioned his name. So she's 8 months pregnant with Luke, and the other two kids, Dylan and Larissa, who are my oldest son and my youngest daughter, are in car seats in our Dodge minivan. It's hard to stand in the parking lot and threaten somebody on how tough you are when you got two kids in a car seat, a pregnant wife, and driving a minivan. All right, I'll just go ahead and tell you straight up.
But you stood your ground, right?
But I stood my ground, and here's the fun, and here's the best part. Saturday night at the show, guess where the old lady and the three guys were? At ringside.
You brought
and I walked out and I looked at them and I said, I got you money again, didn't I?
Joey
For me, that's what it is.
Joey Godfrey said, how about a little Anthony Boomer Payne?
Hey, I'd love to work with Boomer. Boomer's probably one of the guys that went through Chiefs at the same time I did, and I never got to work with him.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, we were running kind of parallel at the time. And then he kind of, I don't know, he left. I don't know why. Of course, it wasn't long after that I got gone too. Just schedules and getting busy and getting booked, and because that was for me. Chiefs was the launching pad for everything I got to do. And back then, but I'd love to work with Boomer. So that's definitely a possibility.
Brian said Boomer can't hang in the ring with Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson would be our new HWA heavyweight champion. Getting something started. I like it.
Thank you.
Missy said, no, my heart can't take that match.
Speaking, and I'm just going to throw this out there too. Back years when I started, promoters, now, and I tell people this all the time. Kids nowadays that are in this business now, they've got YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all this social media stuff. When I started, you had to be seen, and a lot of other guys that
you had to actually walk.
You had to be seen by people. And when me and Blade got the opportunity to go to Chiefs, that's kind of how we got to take off. Third or fourth show we were ever at Chiefs stuck us with a manager who, at the time we was like, why is he putting this guy with us? His name was Johnny Love. And the more I got to know Johnny, the better I liked him.
Right.
It was the same way. And Johnny basically became our manager. So we traveled with Johnny some, which is unusual when you have a manager at one certain place. But we traveled with Johnny a lot. He meant the world to us. And we used to call him Fidel because he looked like Fidel Castro. So we used to call him Fidel Love all the time. But Johnny came to us one night and he said, listen, what are y'all doing tomorrow night? This was on a Friday night. We were like, nothing, because we wasn't booked. And he said, well, come to Greenville. I work for a guy, and I've been talking to him about y'all, and he wants y'all to come down. So I got the opportunity to go down and work for WWC, which was Brody Chase.
Right.
And I walked in, and Brody talked to us and used us, and anytime we wasn't booked, we went to Brody's. And Brody was another one that pulled us in and said, look, you look like two single wrestlers. You work good. The work's there, but you look like two single guys thrown together. So this is what you need to do different. And we did, and we took his advice. And so Brody and Chief and, like I said, the Terminators and all those guys really had a hand in really teaching us what we were doing. And from Brody's, we got to branch out to Cowboys, which was down in Lawrence, South Carolina. We got to branch out down toward Georgia. We wound up in Tennessee working for Terry Landell through another friend of ours that we worked with, Ricky Rocket. I love Ricky. And again, Ricky was one that been doing it forever and took the time to put us under his wing for a while and teach us some stuff.
Misty said, don't do the chorus line kick.
Me and Blade used to do the double boot. You know what I'm talking about. Me
Yes.
and Blade used to do it, but Brody told us that it looked like we were trying out for a chorus line when we did it. So don't do it. He said, so don't do it no more. So we didn't do it no more. The only thing that ever popped Brody with us is we did the Road Warrior finish. We did the Doomsday Device.
Oh, the Doomsday Device. Nice.
So that always got a good pop out of Brody. Brody actually told us one time, he said, Hawk and Animal came to him on TV one day and said, we got this new move we want to try, brother. You're going to take it. So Brody said he was the first one to ever take it. So, but like I said, working with Brody, and we got to meet, so many guys coming through there. That's how we got to know David Donovan Cruz. We got to work with Boogaloo Crew, Scotty Wren, and JC Daz. So many guys came through Brody's and Chiefs at that time. Abel Adams, Jeff Victory, Tommy Gunn, all those guys, man, that were just, phenomenal talent. And we all learned from each other. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of dressing rooms now is, we all critiqued each other and we all learned from each other.
I got to put this up on the screen. I don't mean to interrupt you. I got to put this up on the screen. And I'm sitting here listening to your stories, and I'm thinking the same thing as I'm watching this. So he kind of read my mind. Thanks, Dad. He said it's great to listen to a very professional wrestler for once. Not downing anybody else who ever been on the show, but when you have a 25-year vet who is telling stories like this, it's refreshing, man. It is.
Well,
really,
I'll tell you what. I can tell you this, Scott. That was the thing that my wife was the most worried about. Was like she's like, I know you and you love to shoot. You're gonna get iron to shoot on everybody. So tell your dad that if he really wants to know, me and him need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then I'll shoot.
Well, he would love it too. He would love it. I know he's in the other room watching this right now on his computer, and I know he would love to have a conversation with you right now. And Dad, if you're in there, you still got a few minutes. Get a couple questions together. I would love to hear some of your questions for Chris. Brandon Owen says, "How's it going, Scott and Thunder?"
How are you, sir?
Missy Childers said, "Brotherhood." There you go. That's another thing I think that's lacking in today's wrestling, and that's just my opinion. Is we use the word bro or brother or things like that a lot in the wrestling business when we talk to each other. But how many guys do you know that are really truly brothers nowadays? You know what I'm saying? That if you needed a way to get to a wrestling show, or if you needed help from them or something like that, would they really be there?
Right. And I've watched guys get hurt at shows, and it seems like nobody really cares.
Michael King, I love you. Thank you. He goes, it's a great show when you can't get to all our comments. That's true. There's so many comments flying. I am missing, and I apologize. I really do. I believe this will be one of my highest watched shows in a long time, and everybody will be able to see the comments underneath it. So I'm sorry, but yeah. Go ahead, man.
No, I mean, like I was at this show. It was an NAWA show. One of the guys got hurt. And it was everybody kind of walked by and patted him on the back. It was like, hope you're okay. But that was it. Nobody wanted to stick around to make sure he was all right. His ankle started swelling, so me and I'm going to use Adam again. Me and Adam sat right there. I wrapped his ankle. I iced it. Adam kind of made sure everything was good. We flexed him. Adam's got some sports training from his time in high school and college, and I do as well. Plus, I'm CPR first aid certified with my actual job. So, we took the time, and Dre sent me and Missy. Well, he sent me messages. He sent Missy messages, and I know he sent Adam messages as well about thanks for sticking around and taking care of you. Missy, so on the way home, Missy was like, well, I hope, he's got a way home and this, that, and the other. And she's like, we could take him home, couldn't we? And I'm like, no, we can't take him home. So, but if it was up to her, we would have taken him home that night. And I'll be honest, if I didn't have 3 kids and had to be at work or back home, yeah, we probably would have, because we have done that in the past. been at shows and been on the way home and passed guys walking on the side of the road because they're running out of gas, and turned around, and stopped, picked them up, and took them to the store to get gas, and made sure that they got home and that kind of thing. So.
And that just shows, and that's the way all human beings should be. It's not just in wrestling, but all human beings should be like that.
Exactly.
It's just amazing. And if you're a wrestler, you know, we always hear about paying your dues. What to you? Let me ask you this, and I know you're going to give me a good answer on this one. And we talked about Saturday.
I may not. I'm still trying to find whoever I owe.
Yeah. What do you owe?
How much do I still owe, and when am I going to get this paid off? Because I'll be honest, Scott, 25 years, and I feel like I'm still paying them.
Right.
I really do. It's not a shot at nobody or nothing else. It's just in my mind, I'm still doing what I'm supposed to do.
In 25 years of doing this, do you still get anxious before a match? Do you still get goosebumps when you come through the curtain?
The day the butterflies go away is the day I hang them up.
There you go.
Because if you don't get just a little bit nervous before you walk out that curtain about what you're getting ready to go do, something's wrong with you. It's time to get out. Because to me, that's where your fun ends.
Right.
Now you're just doing it to do it. You're not having fun with it. You're not, and if you're not having fun, the people that's paid their money to come in that door and watch you are not having fun.
That's right.
And that's why there's so many, and you've seen it. I know, because me and you talk, and I've seen it too. And it's everywhere. I don't want to single nowhere out. It's everywhere. But that's why people sit on their phones during certain matches. That's why people get up and go to the bathroom during certain matches. I call them popcorn matches. That's the time everybody goes to the concession stand and gets popcorn, hot dogs, and whatever, because we don't care about this match because they're not invested in it, so why should we? Of course, I give my wife all the time because it seems like every time I get in the ring, since when she has to go get popcorn and go to the bathroom.
I can tell you one thing about Missy, though. You get out of line, she'll come right up to the barrier real quick.
Definitely. I'll tell you a good one on her is probably the only one I'll be able to get away with. Back, I coached the league football as well. And probably a couple of years ago, we did a fundraiser for our McDowell County Youth Football League. Okay. And ran a show at the high school and everything else. With my oldest son, who was 16, 17, I think at the time, has wrestled off and on since he was 2. Just every blue moon, he'll get in the ring and I'll have somebody that wants to work with him. Probably one of the highest compliments he ever got was he locked up with Brad Armstrong at 2 years old, and Brad was like, "This kid can work," because he grabbed Brad's arm and went to twisting arms, and it was funny. Of course, it was also on the same show where they had some midgets, and he said, "Daddy, I want to wrestle," and I said, "No, you can't wrestle." And he looked over at one of them and pointed at him, and he said, "Well, his daddy's letting him." So
good stuff.
Anyway,
that's good stuff.
So we're at the show, and me and my son Dylan and Jonathan Cruz were in a 6-man against AWOL, American GI, and Dan and Golden Gladiator.
Go ahead.
And we had the match and everything, and the match went off good, and they did all that. So at the end, we did a battle royal that was for the Mark Blade Revis Cup.
Right.
And I had said all night, when we went and picked out the cup and had it made and everything else, I told everybody this cup's going to wind up at my house. So, and everybody's just like, well, Thunder's going to win it. Well, Thunder didn't win it. But my son was in the back, and after we got done, I told him, I said, "Where are you taking your boots off for?" He said, "Mama told me I had to take my boots off. I was done." I said, "Put your boots back on." But Mama said, I said, "I don't care what your mama said. Put your boots back on." And he's like, "But Dad," I was like, "Put your boots back on." So I said, "Now you're going to be in a battle royal." So he goes out to the battle royal. The battle royal starts, and it takes Missy about 5 minutes and she realizes that Dylan is in this battle royal. She walks up to ringside and slaps the mat and looks at him and goes, "You get out of the ring right now." And he stops, and he's like, "But Mom, Dad said I had to be in it." And so she stood there and argued, and then she fussed at me because I told him to be in it, and I was like, "Just hush and let him wrestle." So
you guys were
at the end, he threw me out. He won the cup. So there you go. That's our little take.
I love it.
So there's more stories than that, but I'll have to be sitting next to you somewhere before I tell you any more Missy stories. So I get back.
Hey, I got you. All right, last question of the night, because we are past our hour mark. My dad asked him for a question, and he gave us a good one. So let's put this one up here. What do you tell these young wrestlers today, especially about keeping their cool?
You're not always going to be able to control your temper. I can attest to that. I know that for a fact. What you have to do, though, is remember to always be professional about it. I have been known on occasion to lose my cool and tell people in a very loud tone. In other words, I yell at people a lot and tell them what I think about their match or about what they've done or what they did or what they could do better or whatever. And sometimes it's just like best thing you can do is sell your boots and get out of business. And I have been known to say that a time or two as well.
Okay.
But the biggest advice, and I think me and you talked a little bit about this the other day, is when what I see a lot of is all these guys get together and they'll pick out this young kid that has a good look. He's a pretty good worker. And by the way, there is a difference between a worker and a wrestler, just to throw that out there. He's got a good look. He's young. He's talented. He can move. And they start getting in his ear and telling him stuff. Oh, you need to do this better. You need to do this different. Or this is how you do this. Or this is how you do this. Anytime, and I said this to a guy the other week, because he actually came to me, and it was the night I worked at Adam. And he came to me and Adam, and he said, "What do y'all think about what I do?" And Adam had already kind of talked to him a little bit. And I just told him, I said, "Well, I'm going to tell you this, kid." I said, "I can stand here all day long and tell you what I think." I said, "But it ain't going to mean a hill of difference. Number one, if you don't listen." I said, "And number two, if I don't know what I'm talking about." And he looked at me kind of funny. And I said, "The best way you'll ever know if whoever's giving you advice knows what they're talking about is to watch them in the ring." I said, "If they do what they've told you to do, then okay, you can listen to them. But if they go totally opposite and don't do what they've told you that you need to do, chances are they don't know what you're talking about."
I agree 100%. Sweet Dreams says Thunder is a dancing machine.
Me and Sweet Dreams had a dance off one night. And I won. I don't care what he says. With both my left feet.
I love it. Well, sir, we've gotten to our hour mark, man. I have really appreciated you, Mr. Anderson, coming on #Truth, and I would love to ask you to come back in the near future and continue telling us the stories and everything. 25 years, there's so much to tell. I would love to have you back on. I hope you enjoyed yourself here on #Truth, man.
Scott, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me and letting me do this. You're the first, so you got me before anybody else did. Not that anybody else has ever wanted to talk to me anyway, so that's okay. That's why I spend a lot of time in the dressing room. That's why I spend a lot of time in the dressing room over in the corner by myself. But I appreciate it, and I'd love to. Just anytime, you just let me know.
And we're gonna get Missy and the kids on here one of these times to say hi and all that. Missy said a minute ago, she said, "I guess now I have to be on." So
you got better stories than I do.
Oh, I would love to sit down here. Missy, call me up. We'll set a date. We'll put you on here, and we'll tell all the dirt on Chris here. Well, all right, man. I'm gonna end it like this. Oh, wait a minute. Before I go, the most important part of the show. Tell everybody where they can find you if they're a booker or a promoter, or if they want to find Chris Thunder Anderson, where can they get a hold of you?
Well, I pride myself on not being too hard to find, but actually on social media, I've got Facebook, so it's Chris Thunder Anderson on Facebook. my email. I'll throw this out there. I have it's a leftover email from my wrestling school, but it's still active. I still get it. It's Foundation Wrestling School at yahoo.com. You can email me through that. And, of course, you can always book me through my lovely and talented booking agent, Missy Childress, on her Facebook as well.
There you go. I love it. Well, I'm going to put it to you this way. One half of the HWA Tag Team Champions, Chris Thunder Anderson. You don't want to miss him when he's out there defending those titles. And I enjoy listening to the old school answers and talking about all the old school wrestling and how he came through. One of the best storytellers I've had on Hashtag Truth. And that right there is the Hashtag Truth. We will see you guys Friday night for our next show. Y'all have a great night.